Minglaba and welcome to Myanmar Radio's Myanmar Today. I am Aga Jo. Today we report on border areas and states aware of risk of COVID-19 infection. Beijing to share COVID-19 vaccine with the rest of the world. Construction sector sluggish due to COVID-19 outbreak. Yangon seeing 2/3 drop in job prospects in Yangon. All of that on this edition of Myanmar Today, but for now, let's take a look at what's happening in local news. A coordination meeting for the National Tourism Guidelines for COVID-19 Safe Services was held at the Ministry of Hotels and Tourism in Naypyidaw yesterday. Union Minister Wu Ongmao first addressed the meeting. He said the ministry closely followed the guidelines issued by the National Central Committee on Prevention, Control and Treatment of Coronavirus Disease 2019 and by the Ministry of Health and Sports, starting from when the disease first began to spread. He said they drafted the COVID-19 Myanmar Tourism Relief Plan based on the COVID-19 Economic Relief Plan and have submitted it to the National Central Committee. A total of 41 Myanmar nationals, 20 males and 21 females, arrived back home through Koh Tang border from Ranong of Thailand on 10 June afternoon, making the total number 830 on this route. The Scrutinizing and Repatriation of Myanmar Migrant Workers Committee in the Nindai region arranged the return, and members of COVID-19 Emergency Response Committee, department officials, and NGOs in Koh Tang Township helped the returnees with foods and medical supplies. The returnees will have to stay at the facility quarantine for 21 days and home quarantine for 7 days. The residents in Koh Tang Township will also be kept under such quarantine for the same period, and their swabs will be tested at the National Health Department. A total of 670 migrant workers returned home through the Myanmar-Thai Friendship Bridge 2 of Miaori border town in Gayeng State yesterday. They came back home on their own schedules with the approval of the Myanmar Embassy in the kingdom. Gayeng State Lutto MP U Tanzin District Administrative Department Officer U Deza, local officials helped the returnees with the medical tests and other supplies. A total of 25,304 Myanmar migrants have arrived back home through this route from 1st May to date. The latest group of returnees included 425 males and 245 females from different regions and states. That's all with the local news. Now we'll move on to our first report. Among the increasing confirmed cases of COVID-19 in Myanmar, 2 cases were medical workers and 1 from Shan State is reported to be the local transmission. When many overseas returnees are coming home through the border areas, the authorities concerned are highly aware of the infection to medical workers assigned at the border gates, as well as the residents within border states, and they are doing necessary protections. Thora Swisen has more.
Starting from mid-May, the rate of local transmission for COVID-19 has slowed down, and almost all of the increasing positive cases are the overseas returnees. Among them, 2 medical workers have been found to be infected with the virus. One from Shan State was found to be positive on the 2nd of June, and while managing the swab test of overseas returnees at the border gate, the other medical worker from Kachin State was tested positive on the 11th of June. At present, since the overseas returnees are entering from border gates at Kachin State, Gayeng State, and Shan State, as well as there are some entering into Rakhine State. The National Central Committee on Prevention, Control and Treatment of COVID-19 announced on the 10th of June that the overseas returnees are to enter through border gates where there are official reception centers. And if it is found guilty of entering through any unauthorized entry point from a foreign country, and if such person has been accepted with the knowledge of the illegal entrance, the legal action will be taken in accordance with the prevailing laws. All the returnees are necessary to be kept in quarantine at respective hometowns.
For the medical workers assigned at the border gates, we provide them with full protective items. They have to follow the guidelines released by the ministry when taking temperature or swab. All the procedures at the border gates are well supervised. For the border gates where many overseas returnees are entering through, we assign more staffs. Depending on the rate of the returnees entering the force of staffs, the medical workers shift the duty assigned. After they have done the duty shift, they have to be under quarantine and will be tested for infection.
Besides the infection of 2 medical workers, one more case was found out to be the local transmission. On the 9th of June, in the announcement released by the Ministry of Health and Sports, it was mentioned that a 30-year-old male from Sisa Township was tested positive for COVID-19 infection. He was put under quarantine once he has arrived at his village from Mijina, and he is in good condition.
After working for 6 months in Mijina, he has returned to home. On the 19th of May, he traveled to Dangda. On the 21st of May, he left for his hometown village in Sisai Township. The returnees, including the patient, were kept in facility quarantine in a public place. On the 5th of June, their swab tests were sent to laboratory in Dangji. The result came out on the 9th of June, and his result showed positive. He is now at Sasantong Hospital in Dangji. For the close contact persons with the victim, his mother and wife have already been tested, and they have no infection. His family and close persons are now under investigation. The returnees rented car for the way back home, so we contacted with the authorities concerned to trace the contact persons along the way from Mijina to Sisai.
Yangon, the hardest hit city with COVID-19, still showed no local transmission. Border areas are still challenging with the unpredictable spread of COVID-19 because of many overseas returnees entering into the country through border gates.
In accordance with the instructions released by the government in Shan State, it is stopped to host an itinerant market every 5 days. The regular markets are placed to be in line with the health guidelines. Starting from late March, not only the overseas returnees but also the returnees from other states and regions of the country are put into quarantine. We previously designated the schools as quarantine centers, but now, since the schools are reopening soon, we're doing antibacterial processes at schools. The monasteries or the religious community halls are now provided as facility quarantine centers.
The global pandemic has infected over 7 million people worldwide, and in Myanmar, the total confirmed cases are up to 261 till the morning of 12 June, with 6 fatalities and 165 recoveries. That's all for now. This is Dora Suisin from MI Radio.
That's the report on border areas and states being aware of COVID-19 infection risks. So now let's move on to our phone interview with Mr. Xu Jingdou, senior journalist from China Media Group. So the title and the topic we're going to talk about is Beijing sharing the COVID-19 vaccine with the rest of the world. So Mr. Jingdou, Beijing says it will share COVID-19 vaccine with the rest of the world. Could you please elaborate on that?
In terms of the vaccine, Chinese President Xi Jinping had made a commitment during this big conference organized by the World Health Assembly that China will make its vaccine available and also affordable to the developing world. So in the latest news is that during the press conference over the weekend in Beijing, a Chinese minister from the Science and Technology Department again stated that any vaccine from China will become a global public good once it's ready following successful clinical trials. So the Chinese decision comes in response to the call by the WHO as well as the majority of the global community that the vaccine should be made available to all, because the virus will be with us as long as there's one country struggling against the virus. So theoretically, we are all in. If you want to be safe, we need to help those who struggle the most. Secondly, it's out of economic consideration. Rich countries can afford to purchase the vaccine, however expensive it may be, but not developing countries. Financially, they are not in the strong position to purchase the vaccine for their own people, or their own people are not in a position to purchase such vaccine. So China, as one of the countries in a leading position in developing the vaccine, they see it as its responsibility to help. If it does develop an effective vaccine successfully, so China says it will make it available to developing countries, and also it will make it affordable for developing countries.
So how is China's vaccine development so far, and how is the cooperation with the WHO and world countries in search of vaccine and treatment?
Well, China's vaccine development, according to the WHO, currently there are 125 coronavirus vaccine projects in the whole world, and 10 leading vaccine candidates are now being tried on humans around the world, among which 5 vaccine candidates are from China. And one of them is actually the most advanced in the whole world. The Chinese company, CanSino Biologics, had the most advanced effort so far. It has entered the middle stage clinical trials in April, and then the first human data was released in late May in the famous medical journal called The Lancet. So the result shows that the vaccine is effective, but of course, for some of the, I would say the volunteers, there are some side effects, and then they will continue, or I would say they are continue further clinical trials with reduced amount of dose, because hopefully that will reduce the side effects such as fever. If the third stage clinical trial is successful, with effectiveness, at the same time there are some acceptable side effects. For any vaccine, basically there will be some side effects on some of the people. So as long as it is effective, and then and with little side effects, that would be a safe and effective vaccine that could be applied to the majority of us, and then will become immune to the virus. That will be the most important weapon we have to fight against the coronavirus.
Okay, that's the phone interview with Mr. Xu Jingdou, senior journalist from China Media Group. Stay with us as we bring you more reports on Myanmar Today. As the pandemic has affected almost all businesses in the country, the construction sector, one of the virus-affected businesses, has been on a sluggish run during the pandemic period. More construction projects have been stopped since the first reported case of COVID-19. Building materials related with the construction sector have also seen shortages, and their economy has to face a downtrend. The construction projects have been suspended due to the shortage of the imported buildings materials.
Nearly 1/3 of all business in Myanmar has come to a temporary stop because of the coronavirus outbreak. As the pandemic has affected almost all business in the country, the construction sector, one of the virus-affected business, has been a sluggish run during the pandemic period. More construction projects have been stopped since the first case of the COVID-19 was found in the country. Building materials related with the construction sector have also seen shortage, and their economy has to face a downtrend. The construction projects have been suspended due to the shortage of the imported building material. Speaking to Myanmar Radio about how the business started operation, U Josinte, manager of the Manchester Building Material Shop, said.
There are fewer customers now than the normal situation. When comparing to the situation before the COVID-19 period, we lost a few workers. At first, people are worried a lot, so some went back to their hometowns. As you know, the construction materials are not fragile items, so the business is doing well. The rainy season is coming. Most of the construction projects have to stop their operation during this season. We can predict the situation of the business when it is going well, but we hope it goes well.
There are
Since the first case of the COVID-19, the government has started some restrictions, but now the restrictions are eased and business have started operation. The construction project has also begun since May. With regard to the construction project, a lot of workers depend on this project. After the suspension of some project for about 2 months, there's a lot of effect on workers during the semi-lockdown period. Also, the building material shop spoke to MI Radio how he was struggling with his business during the pandemic. He said,
The Techo Lungan Moringa di Ma Yangwea David Lam Hodo, Moringa di Young Salo area power, Salo area power at the Yangwea.
Even though we can start our business, the rainy season has come. The markets of construction materials can run only when there are construction projects. In the rainy season, the construction projects are not operational. As usual, this market is not doing well in the rainy season, but this year the construction material markets have been hard a lot because of the COVID-19 too. At present, there are no differences in prices when compared to the period of COVID-19. But the prices can fall down as the rainy season has come.
Currently in the market, 100 cubic foot or sand costs 9,000 jet. Normal price before the COVID-19 is almost 10,000 to 11,000 jet. The best time for those construction material is from January to May, during which there's a lot of construction project. The worker at the construction site spoke to MI Radio how they are currently facing what are happening in their workplaces. He said,
We have faced a lot of difficulties for our livings, but fortunately, the contractor didn't reduce the number of the workers. They also didn't get our fees. Even though the construction site was stopped for a while, we have to face a lot of difficulties. Regarding the production, as you know, the construction site needs a lot of workers. Therefore, we protected ourselves by wearing masks and washing hands. We were, as the Ministry of Health and Sports, restricted.
Before the COVID-19, Myanmar construction sector increased by 8.1% in 2019, and the expert predicted that the construction sector can increase by 9.1% according to the global data. However, regarding the global pandemic, the economy of the country can go down, including the construction sector. The global data also predict that the construction sector can decrease by 3.1% during the pandemic period.
That's the report on construction sector being sluggish due to COVID-19 outbreak. Not only an economic hub of Myanmar, but also a city with the most foreign investment, Yangon is seeing a gradual drop in employment prospects after closing factories, industries, and workplaces amid COVID-19 outbreak. According to the official figures released by the Department of Labor of Yangon region, during January this year, there were more than 15,000 job appointments in government and private sectors, more than 17,000 in February, and 16,000 in March.
Not only an economic hub of Myanmar, but also a city with most foreign investments, Yangon is seeing a gradual drop in employment prospects after closing factories, industries, and workplaces due to the impact of the COVID-19 outbreak. According to the official figures released by the Department of Labor of Yangon region, during January of this year, there were more than 15,000 job appointments in government and private sectors, more than 17,000 in February and 16,000 in March. But in April, Yangon region appointed more than 5,000 jobbers in the government and private work sites. When comparing to the job appointments during the first 3 months of this year, there has been a drop of 2/3 in the employment prospects. Uke Mautwe, staff officer of Yangon Region Department of Labor, said,
We are still making a list of job appointments for May. There were more than 15,000 and then 16,000 appointments in the first month. But in April, only 5,084 males and females were found to be employed in the government and private sectors. There has been a decrease in job appointments. Factories and workplaces are always issuing the letters stating they would reduce the number of workers and temporarily close. It is now impossible to increase the job appointments. Some workers are now losing employment. We are seeking the employment for the workers who remain workless from our department. Our department has been instructed by the head office of the ministry. We have plans to meet with domestic employment agencies.
The responsible persons of the Department of Labor said they would meet with domestic employment agencies in the respective townships in Yangon region in order to appoint those who remain unemployed during the impact of COVID-19 outbreak. There are domestic employment agencies that have been closed in Yangon due to the impact of COVID-19. Although some domestic employment agencies have been closed, those who are wishing to work continue submitting their application forms. Contacts with the employers are done, but job appointments are not found. It was said by a responsible person of Myanmar Domestic Employment Service.
Currently, there are no job appointment from the employer. We have many appointment found. We said that if necessary, the application form will be sent to the employer without taking service charge. Even if we told the employer not to give a service charge, the employer can appoint the new worker due to the impact of the COVID-19.
The officials from Department of Labor inspected the factories and industries currently in operational whether they were in line with the health guidelines adopted by the Ministry of Health and Sports from 20th April to 22nd May.
Under the leadership of the Ministry of Health and Sports, we are working together for ensuring that the factories and industries are operational in accord with the instructions and directives. Especially the measures are intended for the protection of all the people from the virus.
Most of the workers working in all different factories and industries operating in Yangon are those coming from the various parts of the country. Madamo, a resident from Thaya Township, said,
I want all doing well and all see convenience in their employment. I am considerate of the workers. Now the virus causes all the businesses come to a stop. There are many those having difficulties behind the temporary suspension. The basic needs for the family are of importance despite being afraid of the virus. It is not impossible to hunt a new job during this virus infection period. I don't know when the virus stops. I want all things return to normal. We are looking forward to seeing the period when the virus disappears following the health guidelines.
And that's all we have for today's reports, and it's time to check on some international news here on Myanmar Today. Chinese President Xi Jinping on Thursday spoke to his Philippine counterpart Rodrigo Duterte on the phone, and the two leaders hailed the friendship between the two countries amid COVID-19 pandemic. President Xi first praised the epidemic prevention and control effort by the Philippine government, saying China will continue to support the Philippines to battle against COVID-19. As prevention and control efforts normalized in both countries, Xi said both sides should work on measures to gradually restore the personal exchanges and enhance bilateral cooperation in various fields. U.S. President Donald Trump on Thursday announced modest plans for an executive order on policing, while making it clear he would not support sweeping proposals in response to nationwide protests against police brutality prompted by the killing of George Floyd. Speaking at the campaign-style event at the church in Dallas, Trump said the order would advise police departments to adopt national standards for the use of force. His administration would also support better training for police and pilot programs for social workers to work alongside law enforcement officers. Brazilian officials on Thursday announced an agreement with China's Sinovac Biotech to produce its coronavirus vaccine in the state of Sao Paulo, where tests involving 9,000 volunteers are to begin next month. Brazil has the world's second highest coronavirus caseload after the United States, with more than 770,000 confirmed infections and nearly 40,000 deaths. Sao Paulo Governor João Doria told a news conference that the Butantan Institute, Brazil's leading research center, had reached a technology transfer agreement with Sinovac Biotech. Robots receive diplomas and medals as stand-ins for graduating students at a primary school in the Philippines as the coronavirus pandemic prohibits mass gatherings. Graduation speeches and congratulatory messages were also relayed through recorded videos in the school's first ever cyber graduation.
School's press conference, Outstanding Journalist, Academic Excellence Awardee in Communication Art.
L. Anobos, Leandro Carl Y. Pascal.
Activists angry at Brazil's response to COVID-19 have created 100 graves on Rio's Copacabana beach to remember the country's nearly 40,000 victims. However, organizers said supporters of President Jair Bolsonaro had mocked the event, with one man pulling out crosses. The president's opposition to lockdowns and his downplaying of the virus have deeply divided the nation. Brazil has the world's second highest number of cases and the third highest number of deaths in the world. And that's all we have for today. Thanks for joining me on Myanmar Today. I am Agajo. Have a great day, everyone. Stay home, stay safe, practice good personal hygiene, and follow instructions strictly, and always be on high alert for important news. Goodbye.